Hi everybody. I went by and looked at your 2-point perspective birdhouses and they look fantastic. You guys are doing a really good job. So we're going to continue. We want to make sure that you have 5 total birdhouses and from different perspectives, one above the horizon line, one on the horizon line, one below the horizon line, and then there's a couple of your choices in there. So you're going to fill that paper space. And then think about your textures. Think about overlapping. Think about which lines you need to erase and which lines you need to keep. So drawing lightly is super important because you are going to do a ton of erasing on there. All right. Also think about your textures and also think about maybe turning some of your birdhouses into different kinds of buildings. Some birdhouses can be really tall and have 2 holes in them, like a 2-story building. Some birdhouses can look like a barn. Some can look like a schoolhouse. Some can look like your house. I've seen birdhouses that are exact replicas of the person's home. So we can be creative and make our birdhouses take on some different kinds of personalities. And then you want to make sure the requirements are that you have at least 3 textures somewhere in there, like shingles or bricks or siding. But you can also add tons more, however you want to work that in there. All right, we're going to put poles in there and we're going to start working on our garden. So everything should be done in pencil by the end of the day today. So let's take a look at how that's going to work.
So here we go. I have 1 birdhouse straight on, 2 birdhouses above the horizon line, 1 birdhouse on the horizon line, and 1 birdhouse below the horizon line. Even though his roof goes above it, that's okay. This main box is below the horizon line. So what you're going to do next is add these textures. When it's graded, we want to see at least 3 textures. Like the shingles on the roof might be a texture. The siding on this house could be a second texture. So I need to put in a 3rd one somewhere. A lot of people like to put at least 1 texture on each birdhouse, and that's great too. So let's talk about a couple more things with drawing the birdhouse. When you draw this hole for the bird to go in and out of the house, when it's looking straight at you, it's going to be a perfect circle. So you've got a nice circle on there. When it's at an angle, however, it's not a circle anymore. It's going to start to be an oval. So you can see I've changed these to a vertical oval. So it goes up and down in a vertical oval. This one has 2. This is a double-story house. And another oval. So when we look straight at it, it's a circle, but when we look at it at an angle, it turns into an oval. Now, to make these holes appear 3-dimensional, which is a little bit different, we're going to draw the side of the wood. So how thick is the wood? We can see it right here on the roof. We know how thick that roof is. So we should also be able to see it inside the hole. And you're going to do that by sketching on the opposite side of the hole. So I'm going to draw, say, that thickness right there, between here and here, right there, through there. And then it's going to come up and fade away. And it'll come down and fade away. So I'm not going to see the edge on this side because it is around and behind, but I will on this one. Now this one, of course, is just the opposite because it's on the opposite side of the house. So the furthest edge I'm going to see, which will come down and fade away, and then this will go straight up and fade away. All right, so the same thing over here. I'll see it on the far side, comes up and fades away. This one's going to be the same because it's on the same side of the birdhouse. All right, so let me show you a little bit closer up. So here's my house close up, or larger. So on the far side, the side that's furthest away from this edge, you're going to see just that little part right there. So you'll see how thick this wood is. It's that thick by drawing this little line. You're not going to see it on this side. unless, of course, the hole's on this opposite side of the house. So let's draw some of those little edges in there. So the next thing I want to talk about is overlapping. This birdhouse does not overlap anything else, and nothing is overlapping it. And the same with this one that's way over here on the edge. However, these three have got some overlapping going on. So you're going to have to make some decisions. Is this one in front of this one, or is this one in front of that one? It really doesn't matter, but once you make up your mind, then you're going to need to erase the parts that are behind. So I have this birdhouse in front of this birdhouse, and this birdhouse in front of the one on the right. So they all overlap, and I had to go back and erase just a little bit so that you could tell which one is on top of which one. Okay, so let's talk about the poles. These are birdhouses that are in a garden on a pole. We have some of these at my house. I have some that are hanging from the house and some that are on poles. So if your birdhouse is below, the bottom of it's below the horizon line, then you will not see the point where the pole hits the bottom of the birdhouse. So you're just going to have to imagine that it's coming out from the bottom of that birdhouse, and it's so easy. You're just going to draw 2 lines down there. 1 line, 2 lines, straight down, okay? Here's the trick that makes it look awkward, is that some people will put this pole way over to one side. And so visually, it looks like the birdhouse is going to tip forward because there's so much weight on one side and not enough on the other. So you do kind of want it centered in the birdhouse, but you won't see the bottom. Now, on these that are above the horizon line, where you can see the bottom, you're going to see where the pole meets the birdhouse. So again, it's at an angle. So just like this is an oval, this will also be an oval. So I draw a horizontal oval this time, right in the center. And then I'm just going to draw 1 line straight down. Oh, but it's behind this birdhouse, so I have to poke it back out the other side right there. And then the other line the same way on the other side of this oval. So it comes down, behind, and then continues into my garden. So this pole holds up this birdhouse, and then I'm going to just erase part of that little line right there. It's kind of like your perch. You're only going to see just that one part where the pole hits the birdhouse. All right, so I'll see the pole touching the bottom of the house on this one, and I'll see the pole touching the bottom of the house on this one, but not on these two. All right, so I'll give you a little time to put yourself some poles in there so that your birdhouses can stand up in the garden. Okay, just to troubleshoot a couple of birdhouses, you can see how this pole is way off center on the birdhouse. It's drawn correctly, nice and straight, but you can see where it looks like this part is so much heavier and it would fall right off of this pole. So make sure you center that pole under the birdhouse. And this one is crooked, so it looks like it's about to fall over. What I like to do is make sure that these lines line up with the straight edge of my paper on a vertical basis. So I'll just kind of double check to make sure, and that way I know that they're not all about to fall down. In either case, these are all wackadoodle. Then once we get finished, we're going to fill the foreground with a little bit of foliage. I try to keep it super simple, like I might just draw a nice straight line there, and then on either side just make a leaf so that it's 3-dimensional, or even make a little flower on there that will be in the garden. So I'm going to fill this foreground with some leaves and flowers because after all it is supposed to be in the garden here. All right, and so I can even make some of these leaves go in front of these poles, and I'll just erase these lines behind them so it looks like the leaf is in front of the pole. So you're going to fill up the bottom part of your garden with some foliage, flowers, leaves, whatever you're good at drawing. If you can draw a leaf in a different way and you're really good at that, then by all means do that. You don't have to copy mine. I'm just trying to show you something that's a little bit simple for some people who are not so sure of themselves. And then go back and do some erasing. So you can see where all these lines come together right here. Well, clearly I don't need those anymore. Those are just my leftover guidelines from various birdhouses around the paper. So I'll go back and just kind of clean it all up. Make sure I have 3 textures. Make sure my overlapping makes sense and stuff like that. So we're pretty good. We're looking really good. So you're going to want to clean it up. I have a big space over here that's kind of bugging me, so I'm thinking I might put another birdhouse like this straight on one over here just because that's bugging me a little bit right there. All right, so maybe I'll put another one just to fill up that space and then fill this up with some gardening in the front. Now, some people always ask me about a bird. If you're good at drawing birds, that's fine. You know my feeling about the V birds. We don't want to see any birds that just look like a V flying through the air. That takes away from all his hard work you've done when you just put some little alphabet letter in the middle of your paper. If you want to draw a little bird that's like poking his head out of one of these holes, I think that's a good way to do it. Like you might just draw a little bird with a couple of eyes and a simple little beak as he peeks at you out that little door, and that would be good. You could put him in any of these, however you want to. That might be your little surprise in there. So add some textures, add some poles, get your overlapping accurate, erase your pencil lines, add your garden with the flowers and the leaves, and fill the space if necessary. Whew, that's a lot. So get busy, busy.